Eastern Cape Provincial Government says it will be properly transparent about all of the contracts it signed relating to the procurement of COVID-19 related PPEs. You remember the scandals we've seen in Gauteng, allegations people related to ANC leaders were able to get certain contracts, the outrage at that. Daluhlanga Majeke is the head of department for the Eastern Cape Treasury. Mr. Majeke, good afternoon to you. When you say that you'll be properly transparent, what do you mean? What are you planning to do?
Good afternoon, Stephen Grootes, and to the viewers. Thanks for this opportunity. I think this is just a reflection that we want to increase our transparency in terms of the process, knowing, what has been the time recently, the headline in a couple of days. So we felt as the province we need to be very transparent and accountable in terms of now what we have actually procured into the process. At times there will be positive element of it. There's, of course, there could be some of the negative element which comes out of the transparency, and I think we are ready for the challenge as government, which we want to now become accountable to the people. So I think opening it up, we opening it for the scrutiny of what is there. Of course, we also take note then that we actually also doing more thorough investigation of some of these things in order to go and assess some of these things, pertaining especially to the directors which are actually there and the awards which are gone through in terms of the procurement processes. So there are kind of investigation and some audits which are also happening in partnership with the Auditor General. And of course, as you know, SIU has also been mandated to also do some of the investigation into the process. So it's a kind of engagement which we want to do, and I think in all that, we want everything has to be unraveled so that we know then that, there is proper value which has been achieved through the money which has actually been allocated.
Okay, will that include the competitors' bids as well? So will we be able to compare what the person who won the contract offered and what the competitor offered, if there was a competitor? And I know under the Treasury regulations they were suspended for the time, so there won't always be a competitor.
Yes, there was a proper kind of competitive process, so all the awards went through the tender process, but now it was on a shortened period, as you know, the emergency procurement which has happened. So it didn't mean that the normal 21 days which tenders will go through. It is a shortened period of time which the bidders need to respond within the period of time, whether 7 days or 8 days. But it's a certain period of time and they have to respond. But the due diligence in terms of bid evaluation committees and bid education committees, which are the processes in government which in order to assess the competitiveness of some of the pricing and also in some of the quality embedded within the products were actually followed. So there was a kind of a due process which is actually been followed. But now we want to do to verify whether in all facets, we've ticked all the boxes which are actually there. And I think that's the process which we undergoing in order to assess so that we more or less can close this chapter in an appropriate way.
Okay, sorry, I don't know if I missed the answer there. So will the competitors' bids be published as well?
The competitive bidding in terms of now now what we've done is pertaining. So the different departments, as you know, they're supposed to now be publishing all those processes who has been awarded in terms of now the assessment who has not been awarded. In our side, we have reflected all the awards which have gone through. So the relevant departments, which is education and health, they are going to publish in terms of how the process they've undergone in terms of their different assessment within. But in our case, as Provincial Treasury, our mandate was just to ensure then that we publish all the awards which have gone through the process of the tender.
Okay.
The bidding process.
Mr. Majeke, I'm so sorry. Perhaps I'm not quite on the same page. So I think your answer is yes, that if I bidded for something and I didn't get it because someone else was better than me, people would see my bid and the winning bid side by side.
Yes, get to me on this. As Provincial Treasury, we are reflecting, we are publishing what we have awarded as the province. Relevant departments, remember the awards have happened to relevant departments, Department of Education, Department of Health, all the other departments. So what they are going to do, they are going to publish on their own in terms of now the process of those who have not actually qualified as part of a way of reflecting all those who have competed. There are many of them. in actually fact we have actually not won the bidders into the process. So it's a process of its own in terms of, but our part was to ensure then that all the winning bidders are actually reflected so that they are part of the public scrutiny.
Okay, Ms. Majeke, I think I've caught up with you now. Thank you. Do the contracts that the departments will have signed actually allow the contracts to be published? And you'll know what lawyers are like. I mean, could there be a clause in some of these contracts that say they can't actually be made public? I can just imagine the court case.
This is not, first of all, it's not a service level agreement which we are publishing. It's the awards which are public awards because it's a public service and we are accountable to the people. And we, in terms of now, we are allowed to disclose that kind of information. Who actually is released because they've bidded for a public tender, which is actually there. It's different in terms of how the other processes go through in terms of the service level agreement. And this is not about that particular service level agreement and delivery aspect, which is embedded with the service provider. But this now is an information which is actually there to say that, you know, here's the amount which you've bidded for, you've won, here's the award for, here's the directors, and here's the award for the particular service providers and for what which has happened there. So that is part of the transparency which is allowed in terms of public service regulation.
Okay, I mean, it's an important move that you're doing. I think other people will follow you. I don't know if they can have much of a choice if you look at what sort of public outrage over all of this. You must be quite confident no one's going to find anything wrong. There's no corruption in these contracts.
That is the process which we are following. And, you know, you need to do a thorough assessment for you to make that determination. That's where now it applies. If you wrongly accuse someone that the process has gone wrong and you publish someone's name in relation to that, then actually you are opening up for litigation. That is why we want to scrutinize and able now to come to the conclusion after that, you know, and given the opportunity to whoever is affected in order to reflect, to say, from this, our conclusion and our findings reflect that there are a couple of regularities or there are a couple of irregularities. And that is the process which we are undergoing now as part of the scrutiny. And then we reflect back to the public to say that here's what we found, here's what we've actually not found, or here's something which we think that it is worth to resolve as part of the government in order to sort out. Because if we want to have what we call it continuous improvement, it's part of that kind of a scrutiny which we need to undergo where everyone else is given the opportunity and the chance in order to reflect what is happening to that particular institution. Because everyone else, most of the people, are actually looking for tenders. And it is important that we create a level of confidence. We know that there are challenges which are embedded in that particular confidence in some of these tenders. And I think through these processes, it's that increase of that transparency and also the transparency leads to increase in kind of the support which we get from the public.